Hello, and welcome back. It's been a long time since I've been on ESO proper. I've done a couple of streams recently, but, you know, nothing actually content-focused. Merry Christmas, or belated Merry Christmas, depending on when you're watching this, but, it is December 26th right now. I've had a very busy holiday season, so I haven't actually been able to get you know, all of my content out at the appropriate times, which I'm more or less okay with right now. Real life is more important than the hobby for me that is YouTube. So I'm kind of allowing this stuff to take a bit of a back seat. Especially considering, like, I'm just trying to get things in order and start making moves, like... That's all a story for another time. None of that's really important right now. I hope you all had a good Christmas, and I hope you all have a happy New Year. Nobody's been saying 2026 will be my year, so a lot of you must be very scared. Understandable. I'm saying it's going to be my year, though, which is why the content's taking the back seat. But, regardless, I figured I might as well do a New Year's festival, because I don't think... or New Life festival, sorry. I don't think I did one last year. Or if I did, I honestly don't remember it. I know I did one for 24, and I did one for 23. I don't think I did one last year. And I think a lot of that just kind of boiled down to, what's the point? And that's kind of something that I wanted to talk about. But before we get into that, as always, I'm going to show off exactly what is on offer this year.
Is that a...
So, let's take a look. Alright, so we've got the Fishboon Pioneer set. So right off the bat, the pauldrons, or the epaulets, whatever you'd like to call them, are, fish designed, which is honestly kind of funny. I guess if you're role-playing like a, what are those fish people? The Malmer. That might be a good fit for you, honestly. The gloves are not too bad. I quite like those. Not crazy about that hat, not gonna lie. The jack is okay. What is that pattern on the arms? And it's a bit in the ribs area, or the hips, I should say. It's interesting. It's not the worst design I've ever seen. I actually kind of like it. And it's got, like, pearl necklaces. Plural. Not just one, but multiple. Curious. Sandals. Those are straight-up sandals. Not crazy about sandals. Never have been. And then the skirt itself is very, decorative. I almost want to say that's like, you know, like malachite type, material. That's kind of making the fish design. But overall, this setup is not anything that I'm particularly pining for. I'm not chomping at the bit to get this, and, that's all that's on offer right now. Let me check. Was there anything in the store that they were offering that's, like, new? I don't think there was. Let's see. Skill styles. I mean, they've got like the winter stuff. I don't know why there's two. There's obviously nothing new in the style parlor. There never will be. Crafting wise, I could swear they had a special one, but I could be going crazy. No, I think they did, but it was like a week before the New Life Festival actually started. They had the carved Nordic style. But since it's technically not part of the event and it's just a store offering, I'm not going to show it. And shockingly, it isn't just a reprint of the carved Nordic style from Skyrim, which is nice but also disappointing. I guess I will show you since I'm talking about it. Let's go to the weapons. So, whoa. Alright, so two-handed. So for one, I believe it was called, like, Nordic Carved? But I'm gonna go to the swords because it's the most distinct of the bunch. And there it is, yeah. Nordic Carved Greatsword. As you can clearly see, that is not the same greatsword design from Skyrim. Which is a plus and a negative, because one, for the people that did like that horrendous design, you'll be kind of sad to see that it's changed, but I, personally, much prefer this design over the one that was in Skyrim. This is much more of a normal-looking greatsword. I mean, yes, the crossguard is a bit big and thick and flashy, but the blade itself is quite nice. And overall, it just looks like a normal sword. Thank God. We need more of those in this game. And everything else just looks so vastly different from what you would expect. Nord. Like, even the shield, which I thought was fine in Skyrim, they changed it in this to something that, frankly, I don't like as much. I'm not too thrilled by it. It's just too plain and boring, compared to the one in Skyrim, which had, like, the ornate bear designs. I don't know. Oh, and the bow. The bow's the biggest downgrade. The bow sucks, compared. Nord carved bow, there it is. Yeah, it's a nice enough bow. The bow in this is not terrible, but it is not as cool as the one from Skyrim. I really like the Nordic carved bow in Skyrim. Something about that design of it just being like almost like looking like a modern bow. It was just so unique and different, and I liked it a lot, but this one's fine, I guess. But anyway, I'm not going to show you all of them just because, one, it's not even available to purchase anymore, so like what's the point? And two, it's not part of the event. But I figured I'd bring it up just because it was holiday adjacent, and it was an interesting design choice. But onward to the new stuff. Since apparently they said there's renewed quests, I have not noticed anything, because I did a little bit prior to this. I saw nothing new. All of the New Life Festival quests are still there. I think there is one new quest giver, though, so that is something that we will be taking a look at, because I do find that to be quite interesting. And as you can see, there's still a decent chunk of people here, but nowhere near as many as there used to be, I must say. Yeah, so this guy's new. But you have the usuals are here as well. Like Petronius, yeah.
Indeed.
And Breda.
It warms. I'll mark your map.
And as you can see, it's all the same stuff, like Snow Bear Plunge, this and that, blah blah blah. So like nothing really new aside from that other guy. Who we will get to in a second, but I'd like to talk a bit about... Wait, who are you?
A code for new life. Who's with me?
Oh! There's a couple new quests then, because I don't remember ever seeing Bruni. Huh, okay. There might be a couple of things that we could be doing. Alright, so it's not a total loss. I'll have to keep that in mind. I was not expecting 2 quests. But on to what I was going to be saying. So ESO is kind of in a rough spot right now. Like a genuine rough spot. The player count is the lowest it's ever been. And I don't mean to say that as like, oh, the game's dying, but the game is dying. That much is very clear. And I've felt it for a couple of years now. Because on the other channel, on the main channel, Ogresaurus Shreks 2, Oshrekodongus Boogaloo, you can find that, I've made a couple of shorts talking about, you know, ESO hitting its 10 years, and me being kind of skeptical about the way the game is, one, being advertised and kind of handled as of late. Particularly when it comes to the trailers and the showcases that they give. You'll notice this year, there was no cinematic trailer. Cinematic trailer was gone. And in its place was a, you know, poorly directed, bad-looking, you know, in-game engine trailer. And it sucked. And it did not give me any incentive or excitement. It was just like, oh, it's just the game. You know, I'm just reminded about how the game looks and how bad it is. And yeah, that the cinematic trailers do a lot of good for you. And I don't know that they realize just how much good they actually do for you. Because, one, it kind of gives you this vision for what the game is. It sets the tone. When I watch the original ESO trailers, I'm immediately teleported back to, like, when the game was good. And, it's just kind of hard to think about it like that anymore, because it hasn't been good for a while. And I know a lot of people will, like, make fun of, you know, the base game and just how boring it is. But that boringness is kind of what the game needed. It needed to encapsulate you into that feeling of, like, you are not the most important character in the world. But unfortunately, that seems to be all this game does now. And the writers are physically incapable of doing anything else. So, what do I mean by that? Well, when ZeniMax was bought up by Microsoft, they kind of kept doing the same thing, right? Because 23 was High Isle year, and High Isle year was also, like, one of the biggest producing years that they've had. Right, that trailer became a meme. The trailer became a commonplace meme. A normie meme. When people see the Ascendant Lord, like, they can't name him, but they can name what he is, right? Like, people recognize that character, and then as a result, they recognize the three main characters of the game's advertising getting their butts handed to them, right? It became a meme, and that's very powerful for the game, and they didn't use it in the slightest. They didn't use it at all. And that's kind of a problem, because they needed to use it. They needed to use that, and they didn't capitalize. And sure, it kind of became a meme in, like, the following year, but still, that's really good advertisement. And they just didn't know what to do with it. But Microsoft bought them in 23. Well, really, they bought them the prior year, but High Isle was really good for them. And then you had the following year, which was when they decided, we're not gonna do the same seasonal thing that we've always done. Because High Isle was good for a couple of things, but it also kind of highlighted the problem, which was they promised High Isle to be a return to form. And it wasn't. High Isle ended up just being more of the same poorly written slop that we had been getting for the longest time. And that disappointed a lot of people. Because they were really expecting, you know, when they said, oh, High Isle's gonna be political thriller a lot like Orsinium, that's a big promise. That's a big thing to live up to, because Orsinium is a very, I don't want to say 100% well-written plotline, but it's one of the better plotlines in the game. It's one of my favorite. And for them to say, oh, it's going to be like Orsinium, that's a big promise to live up to. And High Isle was not like Orsinium at all. It just ended up being more of the same world-ending nonsense that it always is. They just couldn't help themselves. So a lot of people were really disappointed by that, and just how one-dimensional of a character the Ascendant Lord was, and it was just ultimately a disappointing venture. So when it really came down to it, a lot of people kind of, you know, felt like, you know, enough was enough. They said, what on earth? But they said, sorry, I'm still just taken aback by whatever the hell that was. But, alright. But they said that... I completely lost my train of thought. That crow freaked me out. Alright, people felt betrayed. People felt betrayed by the way High Isle was handled, and they kind of completely lost faith in ZeniMax, you know, kind of making a good plotline. Being able to write a good story that was self-contained, but also, like, respected the lore of the world. So, ZeniMax decided to restructure a bit, and they went for a different approach. They decided that the following year, they would just have one expansion. So one new zone, they would still do the dungeons, so they would have 2 dungeon packs and then just one new zone, and then one section for quality of life and like a base game improvement. And people were a little skeptical about that, which is fairly reasonable. Because Necrom came out. People liked the zone, people liked Apocrypha, but again, the plot felt lacking. They didn't know what to do with or how to handle Hermaeus Mora, and then it introduces a new Daedric Prince, which is something that just is a absolute no-no, you can't do that kind of thing. And then we got...
The forest sings to me,
the following year,
but it is a song of sorrow.
Another on the wall.
Something must
Ah, yes.
which was,
I can assist you. What?
no, not High Isle. The following year was Gold Road. Now, Gold Road was something that I wanted for a long time. I really wanted to go back to the Westweald for the longest time, because it was one of my favorite areas in Oblivion. And you can tell because I spent quite a bit of time in the Westweald in the playthrough, just kind of trucking along there because it just brings back memories. But it was important to me because the Gold Road, or the Westweald specifically, was part of my pitch for a big climactic DLC that I wanted for ESO. Which was basically the final confrontation between Mannimarco and Vanus Galarian, which would take place within the Westweald, where Vanus would die and Mannimarco would ascend to Lichdom, and that would kind of serve as the end point for ESO. Or at least I wanted it to serve as the end point. Because I think that's a good place to put a stop to it. And we kind of got both of those things in the past 2 years, which you'd think I would be happy about, but I'm not, because of the way it was handled. So, we got Gold Road, so we got the Westweald, which is cool, except it looks nothing like what you remember, and it's completely different. Like, there's so much different and wrong with it that I can't even begin to explain just exactly what they've done. Like, there's whole sections of the map that just look completely different, which I'm sure you can chalk up to, like, oh, well, it's thousands of years ago, things change, sure. But there's a lot of elements that are just not explained, or are handled very poorly. And then, of course, you've got the entire crux of the DLC being Athalia, the new Daedric Prince of ambiguous power, and just how much that ruins the lore, and how much people really really don't like it at all. Especially down to, like, Athalia's design, just being a regular woman. Pretty lame. Pretty boring. Especially, like, how weird she looks. Like, she looks like a Botox model. Like, there's just something wrong with her face in a way that I can't explain. Like she was the first attempt at them kind of redoing the character models, and it's so fucking ugly. And it just doesn't do her any favors. Now, Gold Road was handled, or I should say, Gold Road was received very poorly. Very, very poorly. And, that kind of has been the death knell for the game. Because not only was the plot and zone of Gold Road, like, thoroughly disappointing, but the gameplay changes and elements introduced were also thoroughly disappointing. Now, with Gold Road, they added spellcrafting. So spellcrafting finally came with Gold Road, which is nice. That's a great addition. Problem is, it kind of messes with the way the game plays. Is it refreshing? Yeah, a little bit. But it also kind of... It adds a little bit more variety to what can be thrown at you and things that you can see in PvP. And the skills have variety and varying levels of usefulness on the battlefield and whatnot. You can make utility stuff, you can make, you know, defensive, offensive, healing. You can do a lot with it. Is it necessarily the best options? No. Man, 3 cucumbers in a row, you're kidding. But also, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, it could definitely help for certain classes that might be lacking in those areas to kind of help them stay afloat. But a lot of people felt like it was kind of not enough. Like, a lot of the abilities were just kind of lame, or a little bit useless, or just kind of filled the same role as another ability that the class might have, that it just kind of feels pointless. Not to mention the grind just to get all of the ability, you know, things unlocked. It's just another thing to continually grind for, with another currency to grind for, and people were just kind of tired of it. And Gold Road was, like, pretty bad. People hated it. Then we get to 2025. Which is where we're at currently. The new update is once again another change of pace from the previous, you know, model. So now, instead of there being 3 individual quarters of content that you purchase, now there's just one lump sum that you pay for, which is like $40 or whatever. And you get all of the DLCs when they arrive, pretty much. So you're basically buying a season pass, but that's also simultaneously the only way to acquire the DLCs. So if you just wanted, let's say, the dungeons, that's too bad. You have to buy all of it. People weren't really too happy about that. Understandably so. And at the same time, it's another change in how, you know, the monetization goes, and in the terms of the layout of how these DLCs and updates are coming. That people were just, once again, it just gives a bad taste. No one really knows what to think about it. It kind of makes it feel like ZeniMax doesn't really know what they're doing, and are just kind of throwing anything at the wall to see if it sticks. Now, the DLC comes out, and it's a smaller zone, right? It's where is it? Oh, it's this thing down here. It's Solstice. So once again, it's a completely new landmass, because instead of just capitalizing on the spaces that we have still available, it's a completely new place. Much like High Isle, except High Isle, at least like the Sisters does exist in the lore, but like this is, how do I put it? Stupid? like this place is dumb. So basically it's got a mix of
Another question.
High
The
Elven
river's
and
current carries away
Argonian
an egg brother.
designs.
What do you feel?
I feel nothing. My egg brother would be one with the hist, returned and
I
whole.
need to walk away from these people. Hold on.
Those we meet on the river nourish us.
But it's
just
a
as
mix
the
of
hist
two different
Enjoy the
architectures,
presence.
which is interesting, but it's also just like, I don't know, bizarre and unusual, because it's two peoples that typically would not function together well in a society in the slightest. And I would almost describe Solstice as a Skyrim New Lands mod, because it's pretty much what it is. And it's split directly in half with a giant, basically equivalent of a ghost fence, like the one in Morrowind. So it's kind of cut in half, where you've got the normal side on one end, and that's it, right? It's literally just this half. And that was your Quarter 1 DLC. Or you had the dungeons, and then you had this, and it's like, man, that's it? And then you get the next half, which is, once again, just this. And it's supposed to be like half Cold Harbor, half normal. Because the plot of the Season of the Worm Cult, or whatever they're calling it, is that they're trying to do the plane meld again, but in reverse. So instead of Dark Anchors bringing Tamriel into Cold Harbor, they're bringing Cold Harbor into Tamriel. Whatever that means. I mean, I kind of understand it, but it's just like, why? What purpose does that serve? You know, but whatever. Suffice to say, people aren't really too crazy about the zone. I think the zone looks nice, that's one thing. Plot-wise, I've heard nothing but bad things about the plot of this. But basically, the plot is Mana Marco coming back, and I kid you not, the main friendly faction of that storyline is the Fellowship of Stirk, or the Stirk Fellowship, or whatever. What are they called, actually? Hold on, I can see it in the collections, because they've got armor. Stark Fellowship. So they call them the Stark Fellowship, which is insane, because I literally have in my outline for the plot of my characters is that when they get to Stirk, they form what I called the Fellowship of Stirk. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, wow, this is everything I actually wanted, right? The Worm Cult's coming back, Mana Marco's coming back, Vanis Galarian's there to fight him, and you got the damn Stirk Fellowship, which is a concept that I came up with a long time ago. Obviously, I'm probably not the only person that thought of that, clearly, as they thought the same thing. But it's like, that's so funny to me. And then everything I see about it is like, oh, this sucks. Because it's just not... How do I put it? It's not taking itself seriously enough. And it's that thing that I've been saying for the longest time, which is... The game is so terrified of progression. It's scared to death of it. Like, it just doesn't know what to do with its characters when it's, like, time for them to be done. It just has no idea what to do. And I think that sucks. I think that's very sad. Because there's a lot of characters that I really like in this game. Like, Darien comes back. Darien comes back. So, basically, the Stark Fellowship consists of Razumdar, unfortunately. I'm sick of him. I'm tired of seeing him. Give me someone else. There were other characters in the Aldmeri Dominion. Did we forget? Where's Cariel? What the hell happened to Cariel? I want her back. I'm tired of Roz. Give me Cariel. But, you know, it's Roz. It's, oh man, what's his name? It was Darian's best friend. Was it like Durok the Blade or something? I can't remember what his name was, but the orc, Darian's orc friend from the Covenant. And someone from the Pact. It was like the other Pact lady that you would see a lot. Oh, it's been so long I actually forgot her name. And Gabrielle Benelay is there as well. Oh, and the Fighters Guild. So, what's his name? The head of the Fighters Guild shows up too. Apparently, massive spoilers by the way, but apparently the head of the Fighters Guild just dies off camera, and then King Faharjad's son just takes control of the Fighters Guild in his stead, which is crazy, crazy stuff. So like things are progressing, characters are dying, which is interesting, right? And they've also said that ESO is going back to a linear timeline, which means that progress can happen, characters can die, things can occur. But what does that mean for the 10 years of content, or the 8 years of content, or whatever, that have taken place in this limbo 1 year span? Right, because according to my timeline, literally 8 years have passed. Right, at least up to Necrom, because that's about as far as I did my timeline. Up to Necrom, 8 full years have passed since Morrowind, which was still technically in 583, so technically 9 years have passed total. And honestly, we're probably up to 10 if it comes down to Season of the Witch. Whatever it's called. But I don't know. I don't know what their plan is, and that's kind of the problem, is that they haven't had a consistent plan that has been able to make people happy, because I don't know a single person who is fine with all of this stuff taking place within a year. Like, when you actually sit there and spell it out to them, a lot of people will just go, oh, that's kind of dumb. Because it is. That's really stupid. And it also means that, like, characters just kind of don't progress or evolve. And they've started introducing dialogue lines, or like, romance options, stuff like that. Right? You can flirt with certain characters. So they've introduced, like, you know, personality choices that you can make. But even then, a lot of it's just like, man, some of these lines are just things that I would never say, or that my character would never say. And it's always to the characters you'd expect, right? Like Darian and Roz. And it's like, what is the fascination? Right? When are we getting Naryu back? Right? Because she showed up in Necrom, and you get to talk to her a little bit about, you know, what happened with Vea and all that stuff. And, like, the last time we saw her was in Morrowind, which was literally like 8-7 years ago. And I just can't fathom what they thought that was gonna be, you know? Like, why they thought that was okay. That, oh yeah, we'll throw her in Necron because it's a Morrowind-based thing. What about Gold Coast? That had nothing to do with the Pact, and you threw her in there. And that was arguably one of the better quests for her. That was what, like, sealed the deal for me with Naryu, because I was just, like, infatuated by that point. I was like, this character's great. I want more of this character. And then we got more of her in Morrowind, and she was so different. And yet still, they recognized that, like, yeah, characters are gonna like, or people are gonna like this character. And they've been so flirtatious and whatnot ever since then, that we might as well just have her just outright come out and say it, that she does like you. But because of the nature of her job, they can't do anything. And yet, we now have, you know, personality romance options and stuff. And Nari's nowhere to be found? That's annoying. Especially when the crux of this DLC, of the Worm Cult one, whatever it's called, is specifically that, you know, all of the alliances are coming together to defeat the Worm Cult yet again. Right? They're the quote-unquote literal sequel to the main quest of the game, even though the sequel to the main quest of the game was the Daedric Triad quest line. We already had the sequel. Which is what I thought was very annoying. And everyone really liked the Daedric Triad questline, with the exception of, for me, the Nocturnal stuff. I feel like Nocturnal being the main villain of that questline was kind of stupid. And it's one of those things where it's like, Nocturnal wouldn't do what she's doing here. She just wouldn't. It doesn't make sense to me. But regardless, but writing has clearly been a problem for this game for a long time. And the Worm Cult season, whatever, has not done them any favors. And a lot of people were wondering, you know, okay, is the problem with the writing that they are withheld by the seasonal structure of the game and everything going on with it? Or is it also just like, you know, maybe like too much overreach? Who knows? All we know is that, because they said, we're abandoning the, you know, the seasonal, you know, one expansion, one DLC kind of structure so that we can actually focus on making, you know, good content. So we can focus on quality content. And we didn't get that. We got the same quality of writing that we have gotten for the past 8 years. That's just been, like, slop. It's just slop. And it's unfortunate. Especially when it's like, we finally get the conclusion to the Gabriel Benellet, Darian Gautier love story, effectively. And it's like a tragedy. Which is fine. I'm kind of okay with that, but it also kind of sucks for me to sit there and think, once again, spoilers, but the story for them ends the same way it ended last time, except the roles are reversed. Gabrielle dies in Darian's stead, and Darian, who is basically like this unkillable Meridia's champion entity, is just left on his own now. And I'm like, oh, that sucks, right? I mean, that sucks for him. That's a great plot beat. That's actually like a fantastic way to change his character. If only his character changed. Because that's the thing. Gabrielle dies, and he is like, he's phased for like the one conversation, and then after that, there's nothing. There's nothing. Because I've watched a couple of people's like playthroughs, specifically to see what's going on, and I watched a Kotho video, who put out a very good video on the state of the game at the moment, and how it's basically just turned into monetized hell, and they're not really concerned with the writing of the story. And I should also point out that and definitely go check out that video. I forget what the title's called, but just look up Kotho ESO, and I'm sure you'll see it pop up. It's pretty recent, like 3 weeks. But I should also point out that a lot of people got laid off at ZeniMax, and one of those people included the lore master. So the lore master got laid off, which is really funny. So the lore master got laid off, as well as, well, I shouldn't say as well as, but the studio director, Matt Farrer, he, or Fyror, however you say it, he stepped down. He stepped down as studio director as a result of all those people getting laid off. And I'm not sure if he just stepped down to take a lower position or if he left altogether, but either way, like, the message is sent, you know, like, it's pretty clear that the people making ESO actually don't want to make ESO anymore. And the reason I say that is because ZeniMax was also working on a new title. They were working on a new MMO, and then Microsoft canned it. Which kind of, you know, puts a damper on things when it's like, yeah, you're kind of just stuck making ESO forever. Which is not something that you want to be doing. And it's also funny because, you know, just because they're making ESO doesn't mean they can't make another product as well. Which is something that we've seen from, you know, Activision Blizzard. They are still running World of Warcraft, both, you know, retail and classic, on top of putting out Diablo stuff consistently, as well as, you know, well, not anymore. I was going to say they did have, yeah, Bungie, but not anymore. But regardless, you know, they had a lot of stuff going. You know, Overwatch, I forgot about that. I forgot that existed, which they're still putting stuff out for. Just because a company is making one thing that it happens to be an MMO doesn't mean they can't do other things at the same time. I mean, just look at Obsidian. Obsidian made 3 games this year. They made Grounded 2, Avowed, and The Outer Worlds 2. Now, don't ask how many people are playing those games, of course, but just know that they made 3 games this year. But yeah. And Microsoft's totally fine with that. Obsidian is a Microsoft-owned company now. And they're allowed to make 3 projects at once. But ZeniMax isn't, which is curious. Especially when you consider Bethesda hasn't put anything out since Starfield. And Obsidian put 3 games out this year, which is insane. And Bethesda's just been doing stinker move after stinker move when it comes down to the actual things that they're making. Yeah, and their reputation's currently in the dump, and ZeniMax doesn't really have a great reputation as it is, because the people that are playing ESO right now, right, who were fans of the game before, are not too happy about it anymore. A point that I'll bring up from the Kotha video was PvP. Now, I've been doing, you know, I do PvP every time the Mid-Year Mayhem shows up, because I enjoy it, and that's when there's peak people playing. The problem I've had in the last year, I noticed, was that there really wasn't a lot of people playing. And it would usually just amount to like a one-sided war, where it's everyone fighting the Reds. Because everyone just seems to be in the Pact for some reason. And I'm not sure what's up with that. And they're starting to do, like, the Vengeance testing and stuff to, like, you know, put out a new mode of PvP with, like, a more restricted ability set and stuff like that, with a larger population count. And that's all cool, if there were people to do it. Because that's kind of the problem, is that there's just not enough people actually playing PvP, because, you know, according to people that are better at PvP than me, they killed it. Because with Season of the Worm Cult, they introduced subclassing on top of spellcasting or spellcrafting, and on top of hybridization already with the classes, that it kind of gets to the point where it's just like, what are we even doing? There's 0 class identity, and now anyone can just have any skill line at any point. And honestly, I personally, I don't care. It makes 0 difference to me. But for, you know, PvPers that, like, religiously play PvP, I can understand why nobody wants to play it, because I've noticed how I'm like, oh, I'm actually killing people. Oh, I'm actually able to, like, get up there and get into fights with people. That's not something I used to be able to do, especially not as a Nightblade. Um, and I made a short. I actually had to make it twice for copyright reasons. But I made a short. It was on the main channel, but now it's on this one. And I titled it either I'm Getting Better at PvP, or People Are Getting Worse. And I think I might have mistitled that, because I don't think it's that people are getting worse. I think it's that the actual PvP itself is getting worse. It's getting way more casualized, to the point where anyone with a decent set of gear can just hop in and just actually start killing people. Because I was wrecking house there for a minute in those clips. Like, I was actually 1v1ing people when I used to never be able to do that. I was able to get in there, throw down an ult, kill like 3 people, you know, like stuff that for me is impressive. For, you know, an actual PvPer, that's nothing. You know, that's just like, that's a clip, that's not a clip. To me, it's a clip. But, that's to me. And the fact that I'm able to pull that off now is, like, crazy. Especially when it's, like, by myself, no group. Because that's another thing I've noticed, is that the people that are in PvP now are even less inclined to interact with each other. And I think a lot of that's just because there's, like, zero actual community build-up anymore. Like, I'm noticing less and less people are just, like, not talking to each other. You go to Riften, it's dead! You go to Vocal Guard, it's dead. You go to Daggerfall, it's empty. It's a ghost town in Daggerfall. It's crazy. Now, if you go to any of, like, the new zones, yeah, there's gonna be people there, right? Like, there's pretty consistently, there's people in Elsewhere. Pretty consistently, there is people in, Gold Coast. Or not Gold Coast, sorry, Gold Road. And obviously, in the latest zone, there's gonna be people. And then there's pretty consistently, there's people in Somerset. Solitude is empty. Solitude is empty. Orsinium's pretty empty. You know, like, there's some certified ghost towns in the game. And all of these promises that the developers are making, it's like, oh, you know, we intend on going back and you know, making all of the base game zones look better and whatnot, and it's like, I don't... So, I never actually went and did... Because I did, the ESO Preservance series, or the ESO Preserved, or whatever I called it. But basically, when they went back to change the base game tutorial zones, I did a playthrough of all 3 of them. Just before they changed it, so that I could go back and, like, compare and see what's changed. I never actually went and did that stream, because I've been in those areas. And, like, nothing's different. Literally nothing's different. There's a couple of things that are different, and it's, like, some slightly noticeable stuff. But, like, there's not much that's different. Like, I was expecting whole restructures. Nah, it's literally, like, just set dressing stuff. Nothing quest-wise has changed. Everything is the same. So, they really hyped it up for nothing. Like, at most, it's like, oh, the water looks better. Or, oh, there's, like, flowing cloth here now. You know, like, not a whole lot's different. I do think I will eventually do that stream at some point, make that video at some point, but... I don't know, I just didn't see a point in it. And I was also like, oh man, I better start my, you know, my ESO playthrough soon so that I, you know, can preserve the whole thing. You don't... I don't even think it's necessary. Because there's so much that is still the same structurally that it's like, it just doesn't even matter. Because I was really expecting them to use a lot more new assets, and they just didn't. So, like, a lot of the garbage that you see in the base game is still going to look like garbage. It's just going to look like polished garbage. You know, like, you polish a turd, it's still a turd. It's not going to look any better. But that's kind of where it ends up. But, like, the developers made a lot of promises saying, you know, we're going to go back and change some things. We might go back and introduce these dialogue lines in the base game. We might go back and add new quest lines to the base game and stuff like that. And they hinted that one of the first things they were going to be messing with was the Dark Brotherhood. And I don't know, I just don't care. And I think that's kind of where I'm getting at, is that there were a lot of events that occurred this year for ESO that I just did not partake in. And this is the first time that's really happened, where I was just too busy with other games, and beyond that, the offerings on this game were just so subpar and lackluster that I just didn't even care. They had the big event that they called it, right? Like the first ever world-changing event in ESO where you had to bring down the wall or whatever. And I just didn't care. I just didn't care, and apparently that was the common sentiment, is nobody cared. Because apparently all the event was just do daily quests. That's it. That sucks. That's so boring. And then it all kind of culminates in this thing where you gotta go take down the wall, and you get to, like, physically assault, like, the Worm Cult Castle or whatever. Which is a neat concept, right? Because it kind of functions as though it were, like, a raid. Which is pretty cool. But, you know, nobody really participated in it. I mean, people participated in it, but, like, when it came time to do it, I just didn't care. I genuinely didn't care, and I was just like, whatever. And I just didn't involve myself at all. I didn't. Because I was so unenthused by what they were offering. It also didn't help that there was, like, literally no rewards for doing this, either. Like, there were, like, 0 cosmetic rewards. Like, oh, you get, like, a mount, you get, like, a stupid-looking bear. I don't care about that stuff. So, like, for me personally, I had no incentive to do any of that event. Because it was all just, like, garbage. And also, for me, it's like, I don't want to do the story yet, because I'm not even caught up. And I also didn't want to buy the DLC at full price. I waited until it was on sale for, like, $15 and picked it up. Because I was not paying full price for that. I'm sorry. It just wasn't worth it to me. So I waited until it was dirt cheap, and then I bought it. But it's just, I don't know, I just don't care. I'm hitting, like, an apathetical point with this game. And that kind of sucks, because I love this game. I love this game. And that's kind of the point I'm getting at, is, like, I feel like I'm in a constant state of feeling nostalgia for, like, the base game, and that feeling that I had from first playing the game, that I haven't experienced in a long time. Like, I think a lot of it kind of boils down to that initial feeling I had, that gut feeling I had when I heard, oh, the dungeon DLCs are now going to be part of the story. I was like, ugh, I hate that. And unfortunately, that's, like, the one thing that hasn't changed. I would much prefer the dungeon DLCs go back to being random things that you just do, rather than what it is currently, which is, you know, basically the start of the story. Because, and even then, despite it being the start of the story, it still feels wholly disconnected from, like, everything else that's going on. And I've played a couple of the dungeon DLCs. I never really get the chance to sit around and, you know, actually hear the story, because it's a dungeon, and nobody's actually doing the story. Everyone's just running through it and killing everything as quickly as possible. And then if I'm not in the fight, I'll get kicked. And you know me, I will actually sit there and do the entire conversation. So I need to find an actual way to do those, because once I hit Elsewhere, right, which is the first introduction to that, that kind of becomes a problem, and like you kind of have to do the dungeon DLCs to understand what's going on initially. But I'm sure I'll figure something out for that. Hopefully. But the big issue I have is just that, right? It's just, it's too much involving other people, right? Because that's what the dungeons are. You are forced to do them with other people. Or make a build that's just unkillable somehow, and, like, take forever to chip away at the boss's health or something. Which I could theoretically do, but I'm just not... Honestly, I'm just not good enough at the game to do that. But really, I could just look up a tutorial on how to get that done and then just do it, but... I think it really comes down to, like, it's been... We've had more years with the game being bad than we've had with good. It's kind of that Star Wars thing, where it's like, we now have more bad Star Wars products than we do good. You know? And it's like, ooh... That kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And that's kind of what I'm feeling with this game right now, is that, like, we've had so many bad years that it's hard to remember that there were good years. It's so hard to remember that there were good years. The good years being, like, the first 3. Or, yeah, like, the first 4, technically. People liked Elsewhere, supposedly. I wouldn't know, I haven't played it. Because I think the last DLC I genuinely played was Murkmire. And Murkmire felt like its own individual DLC. It had no ties to the other stories, and it was fine. It was a perfectly fine DLC. And I just feel like... I don't know, I miss that feeling. I miss that feeling of being able to be involved in that story. But even then, everything that's come after Murkmire has been so detached. And it's that progression thing, it's that connection, it's the building characters thing. The game just kind of stopped doing that after Murkmire, where eventually it just became slop. Like, after Murkmire, it was Elsewhere, and, you know, yeah, it's cool to see Sai Sahan and Abner Tharn and all that, and technically Abner dies, which is, like, a big development, but I guarantee you we'll probably just see him again at some point, and none of it will matter. And then you had Greymore after that, which, by all accounts, from everything I've heard, people really were not crazy about the Greymore storyline. And then after that, what did we get? We got, what did we get after Greymore? What the... I can't even remember. Was it Blackwood? Was it Blackwood? Northern Elsewhere, Southern Elsewhere, Blackwood? No, that doesn't even sound right. Because Blackwood was 2020. Oh no, Greymore was 2019, that's correct. Yeah, so it is Blackwood. And then we got Blackwood, which was just retreading Oblivion. So people were already not crazy about that. Plus I heard that they kind of completely undo... oh my god, what's her name? The wood elf from Orsinium. Oh, that's gonna kill me. I don't remember her name. But yeah, the little wood elf that you helped turn into a hero in Orsinium. Her character just reverts in Blackwood, and she's just back to being her old self, which is thoroughly disappointing. After Blackwood, we got... Oh god. What did we get after Blackwood? did we get after Blackwood? Was it, Oh, man. I don't even remember. Because then we're in 21. What came out in 2021? God, was that High Isle? No way. Hold on. There's gotta be a better way to see this. Isn't there like a DLC section? Yeah, stories. Yeah, it was High Isle. Wow! Okay, that's crazy. And then Necrom. And then Gold Road. What? Do I have my timeline wrong? Maybe I do. I could be mistaken, but I could swear Blackwood was 2020. Maybe it was 21. Huh. But yeah, you can see the exact point where I stopped. Oh, weird. This says I didn't do Arsenium. Oh, that's just on this character, though. I've done the rest. That's right. Yeah. It's just meh. It's just meh, you know? I just don't feel as good of a connection to all of it as I did with these, because literally all of this was interconnected, with the exception of Imperial City was its own quest line, all of its own. Orsinium was the start of basically moving the game forward. And then you had Thieves Guild, Dark Brotherhood. Thieves Guild was pretty isolated on its own. Dark Brotherhood had ties to the other zones, right? The other stories. It was basically an in-between continuation. And you had Morrowind, which was the continuation from Orsinium. Then Clockwork City, the continuation from Morrowind. And then you had Somerset, which was the culmination of all of those things. And you had Murkmire, which was just a little side story afterwards. But it was all great, it was great! And then you had the start of the problems, which was Elsewhere. Greymore doing the same thing, Blackwood doing the same thing, High Isle doing the same thing, and by High Isle, people were sick of it. I was sick of it after Greymore. And then we had Necrom, which was supposed to be the start of going back to the Morrowind, you know, Somerset concept, but even that was not true. Because that only lasted for 2 DLCs. I thought we were getting like a multi-year long storyline. Technically it was a multi-year long storyline, if you consider 2 years long. So it just went from Necrom to Gold Road, and then it just ends in Gold Road, and now we just have... Now we have Solstice. Which just sucks. It's just not as good. Yeah, and then you have all of the dungeon DLCs. As you can see, I've only done 1 on this character, which is funny. Where do they start being required? Yeah, here. So you have to do these 2 for Elsewhere, you gotta do these 2 for the last half of Elsewhere, so on and so forth. They become, like, important, unfortunately. I don't know, the game just feels so different from what it used to feel like, and it just kind of leaves me in this apathetic state. Like, it fills me with dread thinking about this game now, which is not what you should be feeling. But that's what I feel. And it sucks. It's unfortunate. But I think I've rambled long enough about how depressing the game is now. I think we can actually...
The fish... Local traditions.
I think we can actually continue with doing the new content. You know what? I don't even know that I want to at this point. Because I'm just so sapped of energy after talking about all this. And I gotta be honest, does anyone really care? Because I'm at the point where I don't, you know? Because the holiday stuff is just, it is what it is, it's just whatever. You know? You do a couple quests, who cares? It is what it is. I don't know, now I just kinda black-pilled myself on the game. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to make this video. Because it really does feel like ESO is coming to a close. Creatively, I should say. Because it's just not... It's just not. It's just not as good as it used to be. A lot of the magic is gone. Like, the base game zones still carry a lot of that magic that they used to. But at the same time, it just doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like it should. I don't know. It's just, you know, that's just kind of how you get when the good thing comes to an end. You just kind of feel a little empty. And that's how I feel about this game. I feel like it's at that point where it's over. They could save it, but I don't think they will. That being said, I do still really want to do playthroughs of this game. And I think that will eventually happen. I just don't know when. And I guess I'll do the thing I usually do with these videos, which is obligatory channel update. As I said in the beginning, real life is taking precedent. Content, as you've noticed, has not really come out for like a good 3 weeks. And probably won't for another week, it really depends. But yeah, it's just, I don't really have the time anymore for even making shorts on the main channel. As I haven't made shorts on this channel since like inception, but I would like to, again, at some point. It's just combing through all of the video all of the time is not something that I can feasibly do. Basically, the job that I have currently is becoming a lot less lax, which is annoying, because the actual job itself is still a joke. That being said, I don't have as much time during the day anymore to just make videos. I just don't. Beyond that, real life, like I said, more important. I no longer have as much time to just game as I used to. Certainly not freely. That being said, though, I do intend on finishing Oblivion. I do really want to play Skyrim. I do really want to play this game. I think it's really funny that I've made, like, the channel banner is all of my characters and all of this stuff. I don't have a single ESO playthrough on the channel anyway. It's just so funny. But I have all that stuff built out and ready to go. It's just a matter of getting it done. I just haven't. Hopefully I will at some point, though, because it does need to happen. I don't know when, though. I need to get through Oblivion first, and we're a good chunk of the way, I think. There's still so much of that game to play, but I know if I don't finish it, I never will. Because that happens all the time. And of course, doing the Skyrim playthrough, default Skyrim playthrough, and then from there, moving on to modded, you know, separate storyline stuff. All of the usual plans that I have are still there to be planned. I also want to play Jedi Survivor. That's something that I really want to play still. It's funny actually, I got this lightsaber here for Halloween. Or I say for Halloween. They were on sale, buy one get one, so I got this one here. But I got 3 more for Christmas. That was my gift. And they haven't arrived yet, but they're really quite nice. And I just think it's funny that I haven't done any real Star Wars content on this channel either. I did a Fallen Order playthrough on the old channel. I 100%ed that game on stream and everything. It'd be really nice to do that again for Survivor. I'm gonna be honest, I do not want to play Fallen Order again. It was a slog to get through, but that's mostly just because it was the collect-a-thon element of it. But Survivor looks so much more fun than Fallen Order that I do really want to play it. Plus, there's all sorts of other big Star Wars games coming out 10, 20 years from now, supposedly. But yeah, no, in terms of playthroughs, we gotta finish Oblivion. Skyrim's on the table, ESO's on the table, Fallout 4's on the table, potentially. I need to see about, you know, the damage that's been done mod-wise, but they're also still thinking about putting out the 100 gig expansion for Fallout 4. I would love a 100 gig expansion for Skyrim. That'd be nice. That'd be cool, because then, you know, a lot of PC mods would become accessible for, you know, console, but, you know, whatever. But yeah, that's the plan. Or those are the plans. We'll just wait and see. But I hope everyone had a nice Christmas. And I hope you all have a happy New Year, as I'm definitely trying to make it a good one for me. So, yeah, I think I've rambled long enough. I always hate when the videos just end up becoming ramble fests, but, you know, what are you gonna do? There's only so much I can do about it. But, I hope you all enjoyed this, this basically a eulogy for the game. Yeah, depressing. Maybe next year I'll actually cover the new quests, because I just didn't... I should have just done them first. I should have just done them first, but oh well. I just had to get this off my chest, because the game just fills me with dread. And that's also kind of why I didn't even want to do those quests, because I'm just like, do I even care? It's like, yeah, that's... Ugh. Not really. But anyway. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I'll see you all... when I see you, I guess. Goodbye.